You are listening to the Maple Footy Podcast, the unofficial football podcast of the North. I'm your host, Sam Little. Find me on socials at SamLittle44 and the podcast at Maple Footy Pod. And now there's nothing left to say except for sit back, enjoy, and welcome to the show.
Hello, yes, and welcome back to the Maple Footy Podcast. As you may or may not know, the unofficial football podcast of the North. And today, what are we talking about? Of course, we're talking about the weekly recap that we always do here. And more than that, we're also talking about some injury concerns. There's quite a few. And of course, our women's team also played during the weekend in the She Believes Cup, kicking that off. So we will start off with that. Just a quick little update on that game. Our women's team won 4-1 over Colombia. Goals from Vanessa Gilles, Janine Sinise, Collins, and Prince. In the She Believes Cup, of course, they now face the U.S. on the 4th of March and then Argentina on the 7th of March. So definitely keep an eye out for those games, those results. It was definitely a much needed win. The women's national team had not the greatest of years last year. So it's very good to see them in the first game of their first international window of 26. Play not just really well, but score a good few goals, which is something that they really struggled with last year as well. So good performance from them. Janine Sinise looked very, very good, scored a banger free kick as well. And then Vanessa Gilles, who, although as a center back, may have been a striker in a past lifetime. The amount of important goals that she has scored for Canada in the past, 2-3-ish years. She's looking like, prime Harry Kane out there, prime Christine St. Clair, if you will, when it comes to being in front of the goal. But yeah, really much needed. So hoping that they can beat the States, because obviously, and then hoping that they can also beat Argentina over the next couple of days in this She Believes Cup. So yeah, definitely something to keep your eye out if you're looking for some international football. So yeah, definitely check those games out. If you missed the game, definitely check out the highlights as well. Then, of course, moving into injury concerns, there was quite a few. There was quite a few over this last week. I love injuries. Have I ever told you that? So starting out with the big one, Promise David, it has been confirmed he will be sidelined for 3 to 5 months with a tendon rupture. Those were the murmurings last week as well, but now it has been confirmed. He's had the surgery, so now he is starting his road to recovery. This is just such a huge blow for him, of course. A guy that's been just in top class form over the last 2 seasons and was really looking like he was going to get that spot on the plane and maybe even starting at the World Cup, to now he's going to have to work real hard to get in game shape for the World Cup. And we'll kind of touch on injuries a little bit once I'm done this little portion of it, because I do have a lot of concerns with our amount of injured players. Then, of course, TFC's Theo Corbeanu just had surgery for an injury that he picked up over the preseason preseason camp. I couldn't find anything of what the timeline is for him to be back. He's definitely going to be a big miss for TFC, who I thought was probably their best player last season. So it's definitely going to be a miss, hoping that he can get back sooner rather than later, and hoping that he has a speedy recovery. Then, of course, Derek Cornelius, Rangers manager, has now gone on record saying that Cornelius is nowhere near being back. So that's just splendid. It definitely doesn't look like he'll be participating in the March window for Canada. Hopefully, maybe he can get back to fit for April, but genuinely no idea what the timeline is for him either, outside of he's, quote, not near it yet, which is another one that is extremely concerning if you ask me. Bombito, though, some positive news for him. He looks like he can, within the next couple weeks, might actually be more involved in training sessions, maybe even playing, who knows. And then, of course, for Canada, could potentially be back for the March window. I would play that one by ear, I think, just because we don't want to rush him back and re-injure something or re-aggravate something. So I would say maybe play that by ear a little bit, but we'll see. And then, of course, Alphonso Davies is already back on grass, which is very, very, very good. Doesn't look like he'll be back to playing just yet, apparently. But but Bayern does not want to rush him back. They want to take their time with it, make sure that he's good, healthy, fit, all that fun stuff before they properly throw him back into the deep end and say, go out there and play. So now I'm going to kind of talk about why these injuries concern me so much. It's because it feels like so many of our crucial players have been out for long stretches of this season. Of course, just look at our back line. Alphonso Davies has been out for a majority of the season. Derek Cornelius has been out since November. Bombito's been out for basically all season outside of the 30 minutes he played in his return match. Alistair Johnston has been out since November and was out before then as well. So that's our top choice backline, in my opinion. Then, of course, you have a guy like Promise David, who was looking like he was most likely going to be on the plane, potentially even starting for us at the World Cup. That's a huge loss. Then you have a guy like Theo Bair, who's on the bubble trying to get in. Jacob Schaffelberg is injured at the moment right now. Oh my gosh, I'm sure there's even more that I'm not listing, and there's still lots of season to be played, so hopefully no one else does, but of course we know the nature of the game. Guys get injured. What concerns me here is going into this World Cup, we need our best players, but we also need our best players at their best. So we can't just have a back line of guys that haven't played all season. They're going to be rusty. They're not going to be on top of it. They're not going to be the best that they can be. And I understand that World Cup, you don't want to miss the World Cup. I'm not saying don't take any of these guys. They've been injured. My concern just is, are we going to get the best Canada at this World Cup if half of our team has been just ravaged with injuries all season? And I think that's definitely a valid concern to have, because a guy like Alphonso Davies, Alistair Johnston, Cornelius, Bombito, they've been out for pretty much most of this season. Even like Liam Müller spent the first couple months of the season on the sideline, so you have a lot of crucial players that are either coming back or still injured, that it's going to be, I think, a very concerning World Cup squad in a sense, because so many guys have got that injury bug this season. And obviously it's not their fault you get injured 100%, but it's definitely just concerning because we're going to have our guys coming back from months of layoff to then have to come into the biggest competition of their lives and ask them to give us 110% for bare minimum 3 games in the group stage, and hope that they can hit the heights that we know that they can. But we obviously also know, coming back from injuries, guys come back from injuries and it takes them a little bit to shake off the rust to get back to what they were, because obviously it does. So yeah, definitely just something that has been quite concerning if you're a Canadian soccer fan, I think, especially looking at the amount of guys that have gone out throughout the last number of months with injuries. I think it is definitely a concern to have and something to keep an eye on, but hopefully all these guys can get back to health and be on the plane for the World Cup, because I would hate to see so many guys miss out on the World Cup because of these just terrible injuries. Moving away from injuries, and hopefully that's not just me saying it, hopefully maybe the universe will move away from the Canada men's national team with the injuries. Moving away from the injuries, we'll talk a little bit about the CONCACAF Champions Cup, because there was a little bit of stuff that happened in there. So the Whitecaps won. They are going through 2-0. Not the most convincing, but they got the job done. Now they will face the Seattle Sounders in the next round, which is going to be quite the test. But the Whitecaps, as the season has, I know we're still very early days in the season, but I find each game they've looked better and better. So if that's a sign of things to come for the Whitecaps this season, then Seattle, not to say it's going to be easy, because it won't be, but Seattle will definitely, I think, be a good game to watch, and you could see the Whitecaps going through. But of course, Seattle are also a good team in their own right. LAFC are also through. 4 Canadians started as well in the second leg against Real España. Hassel, Stefan Eustáquio, Chouanier, and Raposo. The only Canadian that didn't start for LAFC that plays for him is Schaffelberg, who of course is still out injured. But yeah, really cool to see 4 Canadians start in that match. The match was done and dusted before it started, having won the first leg 5-1. So, it was done and dusted. That's probably why they rotated the lineup so much, but still good to see so many Canadians in the lineup. Really happy for them. LAFC looking very good as well to start this season. Potentially one team to definitely watch in the Supporters Shield race, and then potentially MLS Cup playoffs, but that'll be like November that we'll be talking about that. And then Atletico Ottawa were dismantled by Nashville 5-0. I was on the side of I think it's good for CPL teams to be in this competition to get the experience of playing in these big-time atmospheres. But after watching the CPL teams in this competition go out in the manner of which they did, it does have me wondering, is this the best way for our CPL guys to get this experience in a competition like this? Because you look at Forge, they gutted out a 0-0 against Tigres, and then they lost 4-1 in the second leg. You know, Atletico Ottawa kept it decently close in the first leg, losing 2-0 to Nashville, and then get blown out 5-0 in the second leg. Vancouver FC loses 3-0 in the first leg, then 5-0 in the second leg. It's just like, you know, what are we doing? All-time stats for CPL teams are also not great. 1 win, 1 draw, 14 losses in this competition. You just look and you go, really, what good is this doing? Because how are they learning? What are you learning? How are they improving? Which has caused people to maybe suggest bringing back, this is like Twitter speak, so not like actual higher ups, but Twitter speak of people being like, do we bring back the CONCACAF League? Kind of like in terms of European football, Champions League, Europa League. So the Champions Cup would be Champions League, and then Europa League would be the CONCACAF League. We've seen CPL teams do well in there. Of course, Forge made it to the semifinal the one year. So they're also playing against teams that are still good, but not like the best in the competition, where you're going to be getting a Tigres and then you're just going, well, I guess we're out because we're facing Tigres, or we're facing Cruz Azul, or we're facing Inter Miami, you know? So I do think that could be a conversation to have. The problem is the CONCACAF League doesn't exist anymore. It folded back in 2022. So maybe if enough teams can band together, maybe we can get that back. But yeah, I do struggle to see how, you know, an Ottawa, a Forge, a Vancouver, Cavalry, Pacific, you know, all these teams, how, like, really, what good is this competition doing outside of they're getting to play great teams, but at the cost of you're out in the first round. So that's kind of how I feel about it at the moment. Not to say I'm never watching the CONCACAF Champions Cup again, because obviously I still will. I still root for the Canadian teams. But yeah, you just go into it like, you know, what does this do for their confidence? What does this do for the league as a whole? What is it really? What are the pros and cons here? I think we got to start weighing them out because, yeah, it was a very tough Champions Cup for our CPL teams this season. Moving into MLS action, because as we know, MLS is not a Canadian league, but we do have a lot of Canadians playing in the league, so a lot of games to cover here. Firstly, the Florida Derby. Orlando loses it 4-2 against Inter Miami. This was the battle of the Canada #1 shirt, and if this game was any indication of who's going to start for Canada in that first game of the World Cup, I don't think we're any closer to knowing who it's going to be, because in the first half, Crépeau looked exceptional, was saving pretty much everything, had everything unlocked, looked really, really good. Then in the second half, lets in a couple goals. In all fairness, maybe I'm being nice to him. I don't really think there was a whole ton he could have done about the first 3 goals. That last goal, the Messi free kick, I think Crépeau, he has to stop that, and I think he'd probably tell you that himself as well. I love Crépeau. You know I love Crépeau. That's my Canadian Buffon. I absolutely love him. And like I said, that first half, you were seeing the best of Maxime Crépeau. I thought he looked exceptional. But then that second half, you were seeing some of the ways that teams have kind of picked him apart, in a sense of they just kept on scoring against the poor guy. And then, of course, that last goal, I think he does need to do better. Then in Miami's goal, you had Dane St. Clair, who I think it was actually a reverse. That first half, he didn't look good. Big Dog Dane was not looking good. I think he definitely should have saved Orlando's first. Maybe could have even done a little bit better on the second. But then in the second half, really woke up, really looked like the Dane St. Clair of last season, made some very big saves, made some important saves at important times of the game too. So you're kind of looking, and as a Canadian fan, as someone that wants us to figure out our number one going into this World Cup, you're looking going, and we're no closer than we were at the start of the weekend, because both of them had a really good half and then both of them had a really poor half. So we're just sitting there going, well, great. We still don't know. So yeah, I think it's still going to be an important season for both of them coming up. I do like how classy these two both are with each other after the game. Both of them meet at the center circle, shaking hands, talking for a little bit. It's gone on record through, One Soccer and TSN of how close these two are, whereas they both want the number one shirt. Obviously, they are both still very good friends. Their friends and families are apparently quite close too. So it's good to see that there's still mutual respect between the two, even though both of them are fighting for that same spot. But yeah, I still don't think we're any closer to knowing who our number one's going to be. But yeah, we'll move on to another game. Kamal Müller, talking point coming out of the Portland Timbers. He got 6 minutes in the first match of the season where they won 3-2 versus the Crew, and then he got another 6 against a loss to the Colorado Rapids at the weekend. This is concerning because especially with our injury concerns in the defense, of course, as we kind of talked about, Bombito and Cornelius being the center backs, and of course, Alfie Jones, forgot to mention him earlier. That's 3 center backs out for us at the moment. Now another one of our tenured center backs, one of our most experienced center backs, has started the season with 12 minutes in 2 games. I don't know if there's an injury that is kind of at play for Kamal Müller, because I do know last season he was playing a lot for Portland and was looking good. So I don't know if there's an injury or if things have changed in the Portland plans. No idea, but I do think this is another concern to have for the Canadian men's national team, just because, as you may well know, I'm a big Kamal Müller fan. That's my center back. That's my number 4. But if he's not playing, on top of our already injured center backs not playing, who's playing center back for Canada at the World Cup is my question. So we will have to wait and see with Kamal Müller. Maybe, like I said, maybe there's an injury behind the scenes that we don't know about. Maybe plans have changed. I don't know. I don't want to sit here and just speculate a million different things. But what I do know is only 6 minutes in the first game and only 6 minutes in the second game. That's just not enough in a World Cup year for a guy that's already on the bubble, and especially for a team that's struggling to keep defenders fit at the moment. Moving on from Kamal Müller, LAFC won big again at the weekend, 2-0 versus Houston, and Stefan Eustáquio grabbed his first MLS goal, and it was a banger. I don't think he's going to score a better one than this one. Little layoff by Marky Delgado, shout out former TFC midfielder. Little layoff by him to Stefan Eustáquio just outside the 18, and Eustáquio just has it. Proper goal that. Really happy for Eustáquio. He has absolutely hit the ground running with LAFC. He's looked like the player that we know that he can be, and it still leaves me scratching my head as to why he wasn't playing at Porto, but regardless, we'll move past that, I guess. But yeah, he's looking just so good. He's dictating the play that you would exactly want him to. He's finding these great pockets of space to really operate in. His distribution's always been his best strength, but his distributions looked really, really good so far. And now he's never been like a prolific goal scorer, of course, but maybe if he can add a couple goals like this throughout the season, we could be cooking. Stefan could be cooking. But yeah, really genuinely super happy for Eustáquio. This was so needed, especially after barely playing for Porto this season. Now it looks like he's pretty much LAFC's first choice midfielder, going to be playing throughout this season leading up to the World Cup, which is huge so long he stays healthy, because now we have to knock on wood every time we say this. But yeah, I think this is huge. If he hits form right before the World Cup as well, that only adds to him being of importance for Canada heading into this World Cup, because we are going to need our best players playing in this tournament, especially with all the circumstances outside of it going on. We need our best players to be in form and healthy heading into this World Cup, and Stefan Eustáquio is 100% one of our best and most important players. So going to be crossing our fingers that this form can keep up for him. But yeah, he is looking very, very good for LAFC so far. looking at our 3 Canadian MLS teams, similar last week, 2 of them lost and 1 of them won, and you can probably predict which one was the one that won. But starting out with Montreal, they were beaten by Shatown 3-0 after going a man up because Chicago had a man sent off. Joel Waterman also got in over his former club, so that's quite good. Pretty shocked they didn't start this game, though, which is another center back concern. Is Joel Waterman going to be starting for Chicago? Who knows? We don't know. But yeah, he did start the first game of the season at least, so maybe this was a tactical thing. And then, of course, he got about 40 minutes in this one after the sending off. So he helped reassure that defense, kept the clean sheet against the 11 men of Montreal. And yeah, I don't have anything new to say about Montreal that I didn't already say last week. Sadly, I'm sorry if you are a Montreal fan. I do still think that this is going to be a long season. I just really fail to see them making any improvements before this transfer window ends, and then of course finding consistency and all that fun stuff. I'm scratching my head. Of course, there could be something to be a little bit excited about if you're a Montreal fan, as Pemble of Plymouth, Argyle in the League One, so the 3rd tier of England, is linked with them at the moment. He has aspirations to be in Canada's squad for 2026. He is formerly of Cavalry FC in the CPL, has been playing in England for the last couple of years between Plymouth, Luton, and was it Swindon? Oh, I think it was Swindon. Maybe it was Chesterfield. I don't know. But those were definitely the ones. And then he has 9 goals in 25 games, as well as 2 assists as well. So he is scoring quite frequently in the championship, and especially he's only started 41% of the games and has played in 44% of the minutes. So if you're going, 9 and 25, like it's good, but it's not great, you're also looking at he's only played 44% of the minutes. So you are actually looking at that going, that is quite the good strike rate for him. Of course, they won't be without competition. Apparently, both Minnesota and Celtic are interested in the Canadian. So this could be one to watch if you're a Montreal fan, but also if you're a Minnesota or a Celtic fan, could also still be one to watch. But yeah, if you are a Montreal fan, I do think that is maybe a little bit of excitement for you, but we'll have to wait and see how it all plays out. So yeah, definitely keep an eye on him. He has had quite the good season so far. Then, of course, Vancouver and TFC faced off in the first Canadian clash of the season. And before we start this, I do want to just say Tristan Blackman has extended with the Whitecaps, officially confirmed. I think I mentioned it last week that it was in talks, but now it's been confirmed by the club and all that fun stuff. And Josh Sargent, as we've been knowing for about 2 weeks, but was made official over this last week, Josh Sargent has been confirmed. He will be TFC's new DP and their record signing. So that's very interesting. That's going to come with a lot of expectation. But yeah, this game, TFC didn't look great. Let's be honest here. Yeah, I still feel quite optimistic for TFC's season. Once again, maybe it's just me trying to cling on to hope that maybe shouldn't be there. But I do feel quite optimistic for them, especially with the Josh Sargent signing coming in. I do think once the defense gets a little bit healthy, I do think that could help them. Walker Zimmerman, I do expect to grow into his role. I think Raheem Edwards has looked good off the bench in both games, so he'd be one that I'd be looking to start. Then you obviously know that you have Richie Larea, who looks good. I think no one can convince me Jonathan Osorio still can't do it. I'm sorry, can't do it. You won't convince me. That's my boy right there. So I know there was a lot of Twitter debate on the weekend of if Jonathan Osorio should still be starting for TFC, blah, 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 blah. I don't care. Jonathan Osorio should still be starting for TFC. That's my debate done, dude. Mihailovic, I also thought looked pretty good when he was on the ball for them. My concern for TFC is just out of possession. They don't look great, like really at all, especially when they're defending. But that's what I'm saying about the defense. Maybe you bring in Edwards as a starter. Once Walker Zimmerman really settles in, Richie Larea, you already know what you have with him. So I'm thinking maybe there's some hope. Now they're bringing in Josh Sargent as well. But if we're looking at the Vancouver game as a whole, yeah, they didn't look good. They just didn't look good. They looked pretty They looked better in the second half, but I also do think that Vancouver really took their foot off the gas, having gone up 3-0 going into halftime. Game's done and dusted at that point. Just see it out. And that's essentially what Vancouver did. TFC had moments of joy, I thought, where some guys linked up really well. And usually when they were linking up well with Mihailovic. He really was bringing out the best in a lot of players, I found. He just seems to be that kind of player where he can bring out the best in those around him, which you need. And that's why they're paying him DP salary, because he is a DP quality player. But yeah, I do think that there is still some optimism, though, regardless of the result, which was not good at all. I'm not going to paint it as this was a good result for TFC. It wasn't. But I do still think that there is some things to be optimistic about, especially with Josh Sargent coming into the fold. We'll see how he performs. We'll see how TFC can do. But then, of course, on the flip side of that, Vancouver, I had my concerns. I voiced my concerns for Vancouver preseason. I guess I might have been wrong, because they look still very, very good, looking very much like a team that could challenge again for each competition that they're in. Champions Cup, like I said, they started off slow in the first leg, and then they really grew into it as the second leg went on, and then in the MLS now, once again, first game, thought they looked a bit rusty, not great. This game, I thought they just absolutely just tore TFC apart. Went in the penalty when Walker Zimmerman sticks out his leg. AZ knows exactly what he's doing there. He does. He draws the foul. Fair enough. Grabs the foul. Bad mistake by Walker Zimmerman. Müller, he's just never missing that penalty. And then Müller again at the back post runs in unmarked, which is crazy to me. I don't know how you leave Thomas Müller unmarked, but they do. And then third goal, corner comes in, Gavarin comes to claim, misses it completely, and then Brian White basically has a tap in, says thank you very much. He takes his first goal this season. Then in the second half, basically just seeing it out, really. They weren't fully attacking. They were doing enough to defend and make TFC's life difficult. And then they win 3-0, get the 3 points. They go, So, yeah, I do think that Vancouver are looking quite good at the moment. And definitely with guys like Thomas Müller and Brian White, you're expected to look good. I still think that they have an Ali Ahmed-shaped hole in their attack. But, of course, if a guy like an AZ is going to step up, or if Ryan Gauld comes back healthy and looks good, then, of course, you also have another great weapon at your disposal. So, yeah, I do think that this season could be another good one for the Whitecaps. They're looking quite good to start this season so far. Looked very good against TFC. But as I said with TFC, I do still feel optimistic. Maybe I'm hopelessly optimistic. I don't know. But, yeah, I do think that TFC could maybe turn this season around. We are only 2 games in. I think that they could turn this season around, especially with some of the signings they made. And Vancouver, if they just keep up with this trajectory, I do think it could be another good season for them. So moving over to Europe, want to shine a quick light on some former CPL boys who did very well over this last week. Alessandro Hojabrapor, formerly of Forge and Pacific FC, made his debut for FC Emmen in the second tier of the Eredivisie. He played the first 56 minutes against Jong Ajax, and then the first 45 against Willem. So very happy for Hojabrapor. Big move for him. Big step in the right direction. Happy to see him making his debut and getting these minutes. So hoping that he can stay in the squad, stay in the first team, stay in the starting 11, and really build on that. We can see his quality shine over in the Netherlands. Then, of course, Kwesi Poku, who has had a tough go of it recently with injuries, being in and out the lineup, all that fun stuff. Just another Canadian who's had to struggle with injuries this year. But he grabbed a last-minute equalizer for RWDM against Eupen. Very happy for him. We know his quality. We know how good he was with Forge, former, of course, young player of the year in the CPL. So, yeah, really happy for him. He, of course, started life really well in Belgium, then picked up that injury, and it's been quite stop-start since. So maybe, hopefully, Kwesi Poku can really build on this goal, build on this performance, and get back on track, because we know the quality there. And so, yeah, fingers crossed for Kwesi. Then elsewhere in Belgium, Nathan Saliba, you already know, best sleep in world football, went 66 minutes against Leuven in a 5-1 win for Anderlecht, as Anderlecht sit 4th in the Belgian league. So yeah, really happy for Saliba. As I keep saying, this move has been very good for him so far. We're seeing his quality with a top-class side in Belgium. They're really helping him develop his game. So yeah, really, really happy for the best sleep in world football. Then elsewhere in Belgium, Luc de Fougerolles grabbed a clean sheet for Dender in a 0-0 draw. Dender, of course, still sitting bottom of the Belgian league. But hey, if you're going to keep a clean sheet, we're going to talk about it because, yeah, another one of our center backs to watch at the moment because, well, I think we have maybe about one fit center back, and it is Luc de Fougerolles. No, I'm kidding, obviously, but I'm not fully far off from the truth. But, yeah, really happy for him. Of course, another one where this loan has done him, I think, very well. He needed first team minutes, needed to play consistently. That's exactly what's been happening at Dender. So, yeah, they're sitting bottom of the league. But let's be real. This move was really just for Luc de Fougerolles to get minutes, get more playing time, and be able to build himself up. And I'm sorry for Dender that they're sitting in that position, but hopefully that it won't be Luc de Fougerolles' concern come the end of the season. That might have sounded a little bit heartless, but, you know. We're hoping Luc de Fougerolles keeps getting these minutes. Moving into England now, the English Championship. I should be more specific. Over this last week, each of our guys played 2 games, so we'll cover both of them. Daniel Jebbison, firstly starting off with Preston, grabbed a goal, his 6th goal of the season in a 1-1 draw. Then, of course, they did lose 2-0 at the weekend to Millwall. They currently sit 12th. So, yeah, Jebbo's goal came against Swansea. Sorry, I don't know if I said that or not. But his goal came against Swansea. And he could be someone that could benefit a little bit from some of the injuries happening in the camp. I do know that's probably not the best way to phrase it because obviously nobody wants injuries to happen in the camp. But, of course, Jebbo is currently one of those strikers that's in amongst the guys on the bubble, I would say, and especially with the strikers being so, like, there's a lot at the moment. I do think that Daniel Jebbison, if he can pick up some form, he's had a pretty decent season for Preston. Not amazing, but not terrible. If he can really maybe pick this up in the last couple of months, maybe we could see him getting on the plane and playing for Canada at the World Cup. Elsewhere, Liam Müller logged 82 minutes as Hull won 4-2 over Derby. Then they won 1-0 over Portsmouth, where Müller played the last 16. Hull sitting 5th, so 2 back-to-back wins, very big for Hull, as they're trying to, of course, climb up to the Premier League and currently trying to remain in those playoff spots, trying to make sure that they get the chance to play in the Premier League next season through the playoffs. So yeah, really happy for Liam Müller, especially logging those 82 minutes is very, very good for him, especially because, you know, he's had a couple injuries over the last year-ish between the ACL and the hamstring injury. Very much happy to see him in the starting 11. He looked, I thought, pretty good for Hull over Derby, playing those 82 minutes, was getting on the ball a lot, looking very energetic. Really like what I'm seeing from Liam Müller. And, of course, Maple Footy, you already know we're the home of the Liam Müller Hive, so we're always buzzing when he and his team are doing well. Then elsewhere, Kyle Larin, Southampton grabbed 2 wins back-to-back this past week. 5-0 versus QPR, then 3-1 to Sheffield Wednesday. They sit 7th, and that's just the Kyle Larin effect, baby. That's just a Kyle Larin effect. You know, he came in, they were, what were they, 12th or something? Now they're 7th. Currently could not written out of getting promotion, like not automatic, but promotion playoffs. That's just a Larin effect. We won't talk about the fact that he didn't pick up a goal in those last 2 games, but we're seeing Kyle Larin back balling. I'm happy. I like Kyle Larin, as you well know. I'm the conductor of the Kyle Larin train, so very much hoping that Kyle Larin can continue his form and grab a couple more goals, as he's already found some joy with Southampton. So hoping that he can build on that joy throughout, and yeah, hoping for the best for him coming into June. Then, of course, we had Norwich, who grabbed 2 back-to-back wins as well, 2-0 versus Sheffield Wednesday. Then Ali Ahmed scored and grabbed the man of the match against Leicester in a 2-0 win for them. And Craig Forrest, I think, put it best when he tweeted this, and I quote, "Since Ali Ahmed arrived at Norwich in January, they've picked up 21 points in 9 games, and he's got 3 goals and 2 assists, officially a bargain, and the threat of relegation is over." And Craig, I know you're not watching this, but I could not agree more with you because Ali Ahmed is looking top class for Norwich. He's really helped them dig themselves out of this relegation hole. Norwich made some very smart business over in January, signing Ali Ahmed and a couple other players to really help them, then offload Josh Sargent for $20 million. So you can only imagine that money is going to be going to improving them further come the summer transfer window. So yeah, I think that this is huge for Norwich and even better for Ali Ahmed, man. I'm so happy for Ali Ahmed. He's had quite the journey to get here. Of course, playing through with the Whitecaps, trialing in different places in Europe over the years, and trying to make his way through the pro game, and now seeing him be so vital for a pretty recognizable team in England, helping save them from relegation, and now looking like he's going to be a crucial part of the build going into next season. I'm just so happy for him. I love seeing these Canadian boys flourish, man. It's just so good. I absolutely love it. Really happy for all these guys in the championship. Championship proving to be quite the good home for some of our Canadian boys who are out there making some noise. We're going to wrap this one up as we did with last week, talking about Ishmael Koné and the positive wave that he is riding right now, because Ishmael Koné, looking like our most consistent performer over in Europe, looking like he could be on the move again come the summer, looking like just that player that we knew he could be. I know I'm repeating points that I've said in the past, but so happy for Koné because over the weekend, he scored in a 2-1 win over Atalanta as Sassuolo were down to 10 men for most of the game. Not only did he score, Ishmael Koné was the man of the match. So not only were his team with their backs against the wall, playing for a majority of the match with 10 men, then you also had Ishmael Koné grabbing a crucial goal. Then not only just grabbing the goal, but absolutely bossing this game, remembering they were a man down for a majority of this game, and Ishmael Koné is the guy that steps up, helps drag them to the finish line, helps just dictate this game for Sassuolo. The game was not too big for him. The moment wasn't too big for him. Playing against an Atalanta team who are quite good. So yeah, I'm so happy for Ishmael Koné. Rumor has it there was Inter Milan scouts in attendance for this match, so you have to assume they were quite impressed. And then, of course, rumors have now broken as well. These are just rumors. I don't know how true they are, but apparently Premier League clubs are also looking at Ishmael Koné, so he is going to be a man in demand. And if I'm a club, I'm trying to get that deal done before the World Cup, because if he has a good World Cup, I think that price tag is going to go well up, and there's going to be some very good teams in for him. I mean, not to say Juve and Inter aren't already good teams, but I think there's going to be even more good teams in for him if he has a top-class World Cup, which I do think he has quite the makings to have that top-class World Cup. So yeah, Ishmael Koné, moment wasn't too big for him. Lights did not shine too bright. Lights shine bright, but Ishmael Koné shines brighter, I think, is the message that I'm going to leave you with here. So with that being said, that does bring us to an end. A lot to talk about in this one. I do hope that you did enjoy it. I very much did. I thought it was a very good week for Canadian football for both men and women. So really happy for that. I like when it coincides a little bit. When one's doing well and the other one's also doing well. That's always nice. Of course, still the injury concerns, but we'll keep you updated on those as I follow all that fun stuff. I love injuries. Haven't I ever told you? They're great. But yeah, some top-class performances, some more top-class players. Eustáquio, Koné looking quite good. Then you got Jebo, Müller, all staking their claim for the World Cup. Then, of course, our MLS boys were out there doing some really good stuff, too. So, yeah, really hope you enjoyed this one. Thought it was a really fun week, and hope you come back for next week. If you haven't yet, check out our interview with Eric Kobza. It is up now. Definitely go check that out if you haven't yet, or even if you have, why not rewatch it? I think it's a good watch. But, yeah, outside of that, thank you so much for watching this far, listening this far. Until next time, cheers, everyone.
And that was your Maple Footy podcast. Thank you so much for listening. Check my socials for any and all future updates. Remember to support Canadian football, be kind, and until next time, live, laugh, little.